And welcome back to Cliffieland. This is Week in Country number 191 on our second attempt of cooking the food of every single country in the world. And tonight, over to the nation of Yemen. Yemen, located on the southern end of the Arabian Peninsula in Asia, is bordered by Saudi Arabia and Oman, and shares maritime borders with Djibouti, Eritrea, and Somalia. And it is a one-time beautiful country which has sadly been experiencing for the past 10 plus years a lot of torment and war, and it's very, very sad. And at this point, I would suggest, if you are interested or care, please make a generous donation to the fine folks at Doctors Without Borders. They are doing their best to help people in all sorts of terrible situations in places like Yemen and Ukraine and other places that they do a lot of good work in. So if you can, please do that. But in terms of the food of Yemen, as you would imagine, is very typically Middle Eastern, very similar to that of its Arabian neighbors. There's a lot of dishes involving lamb and poultry and fish along the coasts, and we had to do this all last time, so let's see how things went when we did this all before. Well, 5 years ago on the Global Cooking Challenge, I got to cook and stream across 2 nights, and on the first night I had an epic event because we had some very special guests in the kitchen with Cliffy, and that was dinner for 5 people. So we had to pull out all the stops. I made a delicious salad that was very nice. I made the fish and rice dish, which we will be doing tonight, and I also made a dessert with a banana, which was very tasty and very simple, but we're only doing the fish and rice part for that one. For the second night, I kind of pulled out all the stops in terms of putting spice into stuff because one of our diners couldn't handle spice. That night I made a Yemeni stew, which was about as basic a stew as you can imagine. There was really nothing that set it apart from any other stew other than the spices that went into it and an egg. So I decided not to do that this time around. I served that with a Yemeni flatbread, which we are doing this time around. So to recap, what we are making is a Yemeni fish and rice dish, which is going to be really great, and we're serving that with the Yemeni flatbread. So now we need to see what go into tonight's 2 dishes. First, for our Yemeni rice and fish, we'll need fish fillets cut into large pieces, a half a teaspoon of ground cumin, a half a teaspoon of ground coriander, a half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 2.5 cups of basmati rice, or 500 grams worth, 4 cups of water, or 1 liter, 2 cubes of chicken bouillon, in this case we're going chicken bouillon packets, 3 tablespoons of canola oil or ghee, we're going with ghee in this case, 2 medium onions or 300 grams worth cut into thin slices. And then for our Yemenite Malawah, we'll need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, half a cup plus 2 to 3 tablespoons of warm water, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter or other pariv fat. Can also be a mix of clarified butter and olive oil. That looks really good. The place is going to be filled with delicious aromas, so we need to get cooking. Into a mixing bowl, put the flour, sugar, and salt, and mix by hand. Add 1 cup of warm water and mix for about 5 minutes, adding water by the tablespoon as necessary until the dough comes together, a bit sticky but firm. Form into a ball and cover with a wet towel. Let rest for 15 minutes. Knead the dough again until smooth and elastic. Pat on top with a wet hand, cover and let rest for another 15 minutes. Dust a tray lightly with flour and cut the dough into 3 pieces. Roll each into a ball and put on a dusted tray. Pat the top of the balls with a wet hand, cover and let rest for 15 minutes. Grease a smooth board, not wooden, or a counter lightly. With oiled hands, gently stretch the dough from the center to the edge while you keep your hands moving around to create a circle. Put the circle on the board and stretch the dough to form a thin, translucent leaf. Work your way from the center first, then going around the circle, gently lift and stretch a small portion of the leaf at a time. Spread 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of melted butter all over the leaf, and then from the edge closest to you, roll the leaf away into a cylinder. Coil the cylinder around one of its ends to create a disc. Put on a tray and repeat with the other balls. These discs may be frozen for up to 1 month. To cook,
Use a pin to roll the disc into a thin circle. Heat a frying pan and put the dough in. Cook for about 3 minutes until one side is golden. Then flip and cook until the other side is golden. Season the fish cutlets with the spices. Then add the salt and cover and marinate for half an hour. Then into a pot place the rice, water, and the chicken stock cubes, or in this case bouillon. Bring to a boil and cook over medium heat for 10 minutes or until the water is absorbed and the rice is half cooked. Set aside. Then into another pot, heat the oil. Add the fish cutlets and cook until golden brown. Remove and set aside. In the same pot, add the onions and cook over medium heat for 6 minutes or until golden brown. Place half the quantity of the cooked rice over the onions, arrange the fish cutlets over the rice, and cover with the rest of the rice. Sprinkle the rice with a little water, cover, and cook over a low heat for 30 minutes or until the rice is cooked. Normally in this case, you would turn the rice over into a large serving dish to serve.
How did that turn out? Well, it came out very nicely, if I say so myself. There were a couple things which are kind of more me thing, I think. The marinade on the fish was fine. It had very nice flavors, but I think maybe the fish got a little dried out in the cooking, so it didn't taste as wonderful as it possibly could have. The rice, though, was fantastic. It had all those great spices and flavors and had the flavor of the fish cooked into it too, which came out really well in leftovers as well. So that one I'm gonna give 4 out of 5 globes. As for that flatbread, flour and I just have a very complicated relationship, and as you can see, the spiraling thing did not work out too well for me, but it was fine. It was tasty. It was a good unleavened flatbread, and so for that I'm gonna give that one 3 out of 5 globes. So that does it for Yemen. That does it for all of Asia. We've already covered every other thing. We only have left 2 more countries in Africa, so next time around you're gonna see us have the food of Zambia. See you then. These are not my original recipes. Links to the original recipes and their authors can be found in the About section. If you have any thoughtful feelings or helpful suggestions about what I'm doing, feel free to sound off in the comments here. If you like what you see, like, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when these videos are posted, and of course you can always follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Happy eating.